So you may have heard of this dark forest hypothesis. The idea is that basically the reason we haven't found any aliens out there in outer space, no matter how hard we look or how many messages we send out there, is because they're staying quiet. They're staying hidden. Maybe because any life form out there in space that makes too much noise, they get wiped out. They describe space as a dark forest filled with armed hunters stalking through the trees like ghosts. So this post has been making its rounds online, and more people, including people on YouTube, have covered it. It's called The Expanding Dark Forest and Generative AI, proving you're a human on a web flooded with generative AI content. And this post and the surrounding conversation about it has a few excellent points. It also makes a few points that are kind of nonsense or perhaps outdated at this point. This was planted, as they say, about 1 year ago. And I think it's missing a few key details. So Maggie Appleton, who wrote it, I think did a phenomenal job and really opened up my mind to a few of these things, the conversation around it. But there are a few points that need to be added. So what is the dark forest of the internet? The dark forest theory of the web points to the increasingly lifelike but lifeless state of being online. Most of the open internet is overrun with bots, advertisers, trolls, data scrapers, clickbait, keyword stuffing, content creators, and algorithmically manipulated junk. What's even more annoying, some of this stuff is flowing into other areas of our life. The other day, I was trying to open up my garage and I had an app for it. And when I opened up the app, I got hit with a promotional message. Like I had to interact with it and exit out of it before I could open up my garage to get into my house. And all of this is only going to get worse. It continues that all the living creatures, that's us, that's me and you, are hidden beneath the ground or up in trees. If they reveal themselves, they risk being attacked by automated predators. So you might have seen more and more people talking about Discord channels, Slack channels, etc., where it has to be invite only, where it has to be a little bit more exclusive, walled off from like the rest of the internet. And here's kind of how they sort of envision that. So here's, at the top is the dark forest of the clear web. So this is Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, etc. One layer below, you have the digital gardens, email newsletters, RSS feeds. So these are kind of the curated things. This is where somebody's going through. And if you choose to hear from them, they give you kind of like that content that you're looking for. And this tends to be unpolished, loosely organized, notes published on personal wikis, tended over time as an evolving knowledge base. Then we have the cozy web, gatekeeper protected enclave communities run through chat streams like WhatsApp, Slack, Discord, Snapchat, etc. So more and more I'm seeing these small cozy web communities as they're referred to. And then below this whole thing, you have like the dark web, onion routers. So basically, you need specific tech to get onto the dark web, but basically that has its own ecosystem and its own set of problems, let's say. And so what they're saying is that the dark forest, that kind of clear net, it's about to expand. Large language models that can constantly generate content, well, they just joined the party. They can pump out advertising copy, blog posts, emails, social media updates, and marketing pages. And they're really good at it. So this is saying a few weeks ago, OpenAI released ChatGPT, the next version of GPT-4. So keep in mind that this is a little bit outdated. And that's why I think there's a few additional points that we have to make as an addendum to this, because things have changed since this was written. And of course, they mention other things that can generate images. By now, you've seen Sora. You get it. There's more and more stuff out there that can produce content, really good content. You thought the first page of Google was bunk before? You haven't seen what happens when the SEO bros pump out content of ChatGPT. Marketers, influencers, and growth hackers will set up OpenAI to Zapier pipelines that auto-publish a relentless stream of LinkedIn Motivation Monday posts. It goes beyond text to video essays on YouTube, TikTok clips, podcasts, slide decks, etc. So what's funny is I see more and more people on YouTube getting accused of just using AI voices to create content. Now, I've tried a lot of AI voices, a lot of video generators and stuff like that. I'm going to say we're not quite here yet. And I've seen certain YouTubers try to generate AI voices, but we're still not quite to a point where it's indistinguishable. Like if you know what to look for, you know what's real, what's not. But that's going to rapidly change. Like for example, this guy uses AI generated video. I'm pretty sure he records his voice though, but then he just has it sort of animated with an AI generated avatar. If you look at enough of the videos, you can tell. I think what happened was his microphone was in slightly different positions through several of the videos that he used to train the AI model on. And so take a look what happens as he's talking. You see how it's like just rocking back and forth and kind of just shifting from place to place. I doubt there's like some earthquake or something like that going on, rocking it like that. It's just all the different videos that were stitched together that were used to train the models, probably in slightly different positions. So you see it kind of rocking back and forth. You can also see this array go in and out of focus. Take a look at what's happening here. It goes in and out of focus, kind of like, even though the rest of the camera doesn't go in and out of focus. And I can give you other examples, but the point is, I don't think we've quite reached it there yet. The voices that are out there, they're not quite there yet. The inflections and the pauses and stuff like that are very, very difficult to get right. So if you have like a short thing that you need to say, like a little one-liner, that is going to sound great. If you want them to do a long-form video like a podcast, it's not quite there yet. Like we just don't have that at a level where we can fake people. But soon we are going to have people that are completely AI generated. But we'll go over a few ways to prove that you're human online at the end of this post. You're going to hate all of them. So they're saying we're about to drown in a sea of pedestrian takes, an explosion of noise that will drown out any signal. I feel like we've been there already. Before ChatGPT, I think a lot of the optimization of the internet killed a lot of that. There was a brief moment of time where search results were great, podcasts were great, because it was just real people talking about stuff they were interested in, and then the money flowed in, the optimization, the corporations, like it really went down quite a bit. Many people say we already live in this reality. Oh, that was literally her next point. Yes, I'm one of those people. And 4chan apparently proposed dead internet theory years ago, that most of the internet was taken over by artificial intelligence, passing the reverse Turing test. So what is the reverse Turing test? Though the Turing test is this idea of like at what point will artificial intelligence be sort of smart and advanced enough to trick us into thinking it's human? So if you hear a conversation between two people and they're talking, discussing various ideas, and at the end you have to guess which one is the robot and which one is human, at what point will you no longer be able to guess? After the forest expands, we will become deeply skeptical of one another's realness. Every time you find a new favorite blog or Twitter account or TikTok personality online, is this really a whole human with a rich and complex life like mine? Next, they say, before you continue, pause and consider this. How would you prove you're not a language model generated predictive text? What special human tricks can you do that a language model cannot? Now, on this channel, we've covered examples where people would kind of quote unquote jailbreak these models to solve CAPTCHAs. The more advanced models do really good at those little intelligence tests where you kind of have to follow a certain pattern and guess what comes next. There was this camping ground where they had a few incidences where the bears would be able to get in there and kind of get at the trash that people would throw out. They would be able to open whatever security systems that the campground set up to, keep the bears out. And they were facing some criticism along the lines of how hard is it to create a security device that a bear can't, navigate around? Because they weren't breaking it, they were opening them, they were figuring out how to get inside. Right, so they were saying to these people, like, you should be smart enough to build a security device that can, keep a bear out. And the guy that was in charge of creating those security templates, he said, well, the problem isn't keeping the bear out. He said the problem is that the smartest of bears, if this is sort of the intelligence distribution of bears, right? So this is kind of your average bear. And so over here, you kind of have your, the smarter bears. And here you sort of have your intelligence distribution of, the people that visit the park, the campers. There's this unfortunate overlap to where the smartest of bears and the not so smart campers, where it overlaps. So building a device that keeps out all bears will keep out a certain percentage of humans. And it's kind of the same problem here, right? Can you build a CAPTCHA that currently will keep out all of the AI models? Maybe. But what percent of human beings using the net won't be able to, solve those CAPTCHAs? So here in this blog post, they give some ideas of how to make sure that we can kind of find the humans online, right? Triangulate objective reality, right? They're saying, well, we can have vision, sound, taste. We're part of cultures, communities, and these AIs, they're just a language model in a box. If some event or person isn't part of their training data, they can't tell you about it. They don't know about the events that happen after a cutoff date. Number two is one of the best ways to prove you're not a predictive language model is to demonstrate critical and sophisticated thinking. Or we can develop creative language quirks, dialects, memes, and jargon. And they're saying no language model will be able to keep up with the pace of weird internet lingo and memes. So everything there, I'm pretty sure we can safely say it's outdated. Since that was written, we had massive advances in ChatGPT, Gemini 1.5 Pro is demonstrating incredible in-context learning abilities, learning to speak a whole new language. And again, this is post-training, right? So after it was trained, we gave it some documents about this language that has fewer than 200 speakers worldwide. And it learned to speak a brand new language just because it, read a book in that language. And other people are demonstrating similar or the same abilities with Claude 3. So it's important to understand that a lot of the stuff that people are saying, well, we can just do this, that assumes no progress, that these language models won't get better. No language model will be able to keep up with the pace of the weird internet lingo and memes. Yes, maybe in 2020 or 2021, whenever this was written, but it's 2 years later now. It could do so much more. We have to assume that they're going to get better. 2 years is a long time in AI time. Step 4 is consider institutional verification. So we need verification by centralized institutions. So like a DMV, but for posting on Twitter. You then get some kind of a special badge or mark online legitimizing you are a real human. It may or may not be on the blockchain somehow. And they're saying this could have problems, susceptible to abuse, and ultimately impractical. And the other kind of idea here is show up in meat space, which is a great way of putting it. Basically, enjoy the great outdoors. Go and meet your friends in real life. Grab a cup of coffee. So I enjoyed reading this essay. I think the first half of it is spot on. I agree with pretty much everything. The internet has been getting worse and worse. I think objectively, if you're a user, the experience has been getting worse and worse. There's more pop-ups and cookies and those stupid cookie messages and tracking, and just advertisement is shoved everywhere. Now, I think this article does miss a few key items. So most places find it near impossible to have an open web and not have bots. There are almost no ways to defend against that, no matter how thorough you are in defending against them. There's one way, though, that is really effective, and that is collecting payment. Even if it's just a little bit, it doesn't have to be a lot of money, which the fact that you have to pay with a credit card makes it easier to eliminate bad actors. It could be $1, it could be $5. Few people have access to an unlimited number of credit cards. Even if you do, they're able to match your name and all the other stuff. It's still difficult to continuously get them and pay for stuff. You can lose 100 automatically generated profiles and not really have a problem with it. But if 100 of your credit cards get blacklisted, it'll be difficult to kind of recover that. And certainly we're seeing that with Twitter. They're moving more and more towards getting paid to, you have to pay to be a verified member on there. You get your blue check mark, if you will. So certainly I think this would increase the amount of content and communities that people would pay for to be a part of. But that still doesn't prevent something like a Sybil attack. This is where an attacker creates multiple fake identities, known as Sybil nodes, to gain control of a network or a system. So it's kind of like, let's say you're trying to vote for something and you create multiple identities, or if there's like a raffle of some sort, creating multiple raffle tickets, right? You're sort of changing how much power your vote has or what the chance of your winning ticket being selected. And there are instances where you might not need 1 million bots. You could just go and create, 10 different accounts, verify that they're a real human, right? Let's say there's 5 different networks. You pay $1 to join each. You show them your ID. So they know you're a real person, but you still have 10 identities, 10 nodes to do whatever you will. That's still a problem. Where this problem gets really big is if you can get some sort of money paid to you for each and every single account. So imagine a situation where the government gives out some money to every real person. If the person could set up 10 different accounts, they would receive 10 times the payout. Now, do you know who has 2 thumbs and is already working on a solution? This guy. I couldn't find a picture of him pointing 2 thumbs at his face, but yes, Sam Altman, the founder of OpenAI. Some might say the person kind of potentially maybe a little bit behind some of these issues. He is also working to address those issues. Now, he has a solution. He has a really good solution that will fix this dark forest of the clear web problem. He has a solution that will fix this Sybil attack problem. But here's the thing, you may not like it because it has to do with harvesting your eyeballs. Allow me to explain. So really fast, I have to make the disclaimer. So I'm not trying to convince you anything. I'm not trying to get you to buy anything or do anything. I, like many individuals, have my own reservations about this, right? So I'm not like, yay, problem solved. That's not the point of this. There's this really good quote: there are no solutions, there are only trade-offs. So kind of keep that in mind as we go through this, because this would certainly solve some of the issues, but it has some trade-offs. If we go with a solution like this, then we have to take the good with the bad. And if we don't, then we have to figure out another way of dealing with this whole issue of automated bot attacks, potentially large-scale propaganda campaigns, or just, people creating tons of spam content, those automated phone calls, right? All of that stuff. How do we get around it? How do we improve it? Well, a Sam Altman-backed company presents a potential solution. It's called WorldCoin. Now, the WorldCoin is going to have a lot of things that are like kind of dystopian. There's going to be a lot of people that just do not like this thing. And I'm sure some people in the comments are just going to be very unhappy that I even show this thing. But it's important that you are aware of this idea, not so that you sign up for it or whatever, but these are the things that will be suggested in the future, the things that will maybe be mandatory for people. And so on this website here, they're talking about AI-funded UBI, so sort of everybody in the world getting a equitable global distribution, right? So everybody getting paid once the age of AI begins. But we're going to need proof of personhood. So as AI advances, it's becoming increasingly important to differentiate between human and AI-generated content online. What if we had a digital passport that can be used to privately prove uniqueness and humanness online? So, for example, let's say you open up a bank account. They need to know who you are. They need your driver license. They need your name. They want to see what you look like, etc. But if you're writing something online, or you're opening up some social media profile, they don't necessarily need to know who you are. They just need to know, are you human? And are you a unique human? Meaning that, do you already have 10 million profiles with us, or is this your first one? Let's say there's a social network where you can only have one profile, or maybe two profiles, one personal, one for work, but no more than that. They don't need to know your name, your address, or where you live, or your height, or your date of birth, or anything like that. They're just like, who's on the other side of the monitor? Are you a real, unique human being? If yes, then here's your account. If no, then, well, we can't give it to you. So in other words, you can have something like an email verification, but anyone can get email. Then you can have like a phone verification where like an SMS text message is sent to you to verify that, you have a phone number. But again, you can have a lot of phone numbers. It's a little bit more difficult than an email, but you can still game the system. You can pay, to verify that with a credit card. So a credit card, you can pay for something, but not everyone has a credit card. Not everyone necessarily wants to transact online. It costs money, not only to the person for paying, but also to the merchant. Or you can have, like, for example, a driver license, but that has all your information on there. That has your name, address, date of birth, right? So maybe you don't want to be giving this to every single place that you interact with online, right? That's a little bit scary. So if the question is, how do we prove not identity, but, humanness without all the extras, they're calling that proof of personhood. So you're a person, no other information is given. This protects against Sybil attacks. It will prevent spreading disinformation at scale. So something like a proof of personhood would be very useful. Now, let me just stop here for 1 second, be super duper clear. I think the idea of a proof of personhood is a good idea. I think we're going to need something like this at some point. Like, it would be useful to have something like this. So I approve of the idea, but that doesn't mean I'm necessarily on board with just everything here, right? So, they're talking about some sort of a world ID, global UBI, and they kind of harvest your biometric data. Basically, they scan your iris to kind of use it as a fingerprint, like a unique identification, and then that's stored in their database. So there's a lot of things that kind of go into it that's kind of like, whoa. So also it's a cryptocurrency on the Ethereum blockchain, right? So people are trading that coin like Bitcoin and Dogecoin, etc. So I just want to separate that. So proof of personhood. So this idea, how can you verify that you're a real person without a government issued ID, without some centralized thing, right? Something like this could be useful. Like if I go on Twitter/X, right? If I could just look at the accounts that have verification of this, that's a unique individual with just one account that's posting on there. Like, I was certainly I'd probably check that box and say, yes, I only want to see content from proven humans. I'd rather not see all the automated content. So I like this idea. But And I don't think this idea was necessarily Sam Altman and OpenAI. I don't think they were necessarily the first people that kind of do this to come up with that idea. So this idea probably existed before, but they took the idea and they made WorldCoin, WLD, WorldCoin, and the whole World Passport 2.0 and all that stuff. So I like the idea behind it, but harvesting your biometric data, putting that into WorldCoin, having that be a passport, somehow having it be linked to UBI and eventually AI governance. I mean, obviously, there's a lot to unpack there, right? But I think the point is this solution will be proposed. There will probably be government solutions that will be proposed. So this is yet another thing to think about. Where do you fall kind of on the trade-offs versus opportunities spectrum, right? This is the WorldCoin orb. So you go in and you look into the orb, right? There's Sam Altman doing it. So you look into it, it scans your iris, gives you a unique ID. And then later, if you go and do it again, you're not going to be able to get a different ID, basically. And the other thing to think about is this. Right now, people are very worried and unwilling to do this. I mean, for the most part, they do have 4 million people signed up. But if they started giving out UBI, some sort of a payments through this thing, like it would be a whole different story, wouldn't it? So if anybody that is, has this proof of personhood starts getting $2,000 a month for nothing, just for having this sort of proof of personhood, now, of course, then I think a lot more people would start signing up. Anyway, so the point here isn't for me to tell you to go out there and do something or buy something. Like, no, I'm not suggesting any action. I'm just letting you know that this is what is being talked about as a potential path forward for proof of personhood plus UBI. The people that are concerned with, world governments, of course, hate this. The people that are concerned with cryptocurrency hate this. So it's running on the Ethereum blockchain. So Vitalik Buterin is the guy behind the Ethereum blockchain. Vitalik, I believe, was part of the Thiel Fellowship. So Peter Thiel backs certain very promising individuals to go and do stuff. Certainly Vitalik was one of the notable people to come out of that. Ethereum is what, $500 billion, it looks like, approaching $500 billion market cap. But the point is that they're proposing something like this to, help with finance, with transferring money worldwide, keeping the bots out, governance of, for example, AI, right? So for everyone with one of those identities to be able to vote for how AI is governed. And they're talking about incentive alignment, equal distribution of scarce resources. So this is one of the proposed solutions. Whether or not it takes hold is hard to know. Certainly, I mean, as I read through it, you can see why people are nervous. I mean, imagine something like this falling into the wrong hands. That's, of course, absolute nightmare fuel. But if not this sort of solution, what other solutions do we have for dealing with some of the coming changes with sort of like the rise of automation, including on the internet and in the workplace? Now, if like me, you have some concerns about these sort of centralized world IDs and these various proposed solutions, I do have another solution to this whole problem in mind. It's easy, foolproof. It does not require any agencies to come in and help gather data or anything like that. Here's how it works. Imagine it's 10 years in the future. You're on an online dating site and you find a girl that is perfect. She's smart, funny. She likes the same things you do. You guys hop on a video chat and you like her even more. She's beautiful and seems to be interested in you. There's a tugging thought at the back of your head going, this can't be real. She's a bot. You just can't shake the feeling that this is too good to be true. So you ask her, can you prove that you are not in fact a robot? That you're not just running on ChatGPT or Gemini or something like that? She responds by saying the most horrible things imaginable, calling you the worst slurs that you've ever heard in your life. The stuff that she says is the most foul, most offensive, and the most hateful of speech. Once she's finished, you feel relieved because there's no way a large language model said that. No, but seriously, I mean, if you remember the Wall Street Bets subreddit at the height of the craziness that was going on, I mean, how they talked, that's how we all will talk online to prove we're human. That will literally be the new online lingo. If you're not constantly just throwing out various slurs and offensive content, no one will know whether you're human or not. By the way, the movie they just made about that was actually pretty good. Dumb Money, it's called. It was pretty good. Not bad. I enjoyed it. Anyways, this is Wes Roth. In case you were wondering if this was AI generated. With that said, thank you for watching.